Hey guys, I know that this is a little different than what I've been trying to do, which is post a review every Sunday for every Wednesday or Thursday that I do a guitar cover. And I was planning on doing this over the weekend, but Sunday I'm not going to be able to do this because I got work, and it's not like early matinee work. It's like I'm going to be working at Eagle Bank Arena from like 5:30 to probably like 10 or 11:30 at night. And at that point, when you're living with your folks, that's kind of not really a good time to be in your webcam discussing 40-year-old college movies. And so I'll just get to the review. Um, so Toga, 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 Toga. Okay. Um, well, if you saw the link, then you know that I was referencing Animal House, and I figured since this is spring break and this is my senior year of college, so yay! So I figured it'd be great to review probably one of the single most famous movies about college kids out there. I think the only other comedy that I've seen with about college that's even close to being well known is probably Back to School from 1986, starring Rodney Dangerfield. But that's another review for another day. I might review that maybe later this year. Who knows? Um, so as far as Animal House is concerned, the basic plot is that there at this fictional college at Faber College, there's this fraternity known as the Deltas, who are pretty much the epitome of batshit crazy people. They do not take their academics seriously. They host crazy parties. They break almost every rule you could break as a college student. And the dean of the school, Dean Wormer, is trying to find a way to kick those rebels off campus. And the Deltas also clash with the preppy jocks of Omega. So it's basically the lovable losers versus the pretentious douchebags. That's basically what this movie is. I know the tagline for this was the same tagline for Caddyshack, snobs versus the slobs, but I think mine is a little more blunt and a little harshly honest about how much the fighting is going on. And this was the first movie where a lot of actors started to get their foot in the door to become stars. I mean, we had Tom Holtz, who would go on to do Amadeus. We had Tim Matheson, Karen Allen, Kevin Bacon, and the late great John Belushi. And there are actually a few. We had Donald Sutherland as Professor Jennings, so that I think he was probably the most experienced actor on set, or one of the most. But the film was directed by John Landis and written by Ivan Reitman and Harold Ramis, who would go on to make many great comedies in the 80s. So now that I've basically spent the first 4 minutes talking about why I'm doing the review now, what the movie's about, and the key members of the cast and crew, I think it's time that I start actually talking about the movie. Um, I think the best way to start it is that it's one of those movies where it's like if you're a college age kid, like if you're a freshman who's finishing up your freshman year, or if you're an upperclassman in college, then this movie is basically every raunchy college joke you could come up with, from the crazy frat parties, the drunks, the pranks, the sexcapades, a lot of stuff like that. And that the charm of the movie and I think Roger Ebert even alluded to this in his review, which I really agree with, is that the movie has this sort of crazy bonkers mentality. It's that comedy that is as raunchy as it is manically energetic. And there's a lot of great scenes in there that are so crazy and so out there that it's really hard to wrap your head around it. The biggest example of a crazy scene that is gut bustingly funny is the ending, which, without giving too much away, the ending has the Deltas getting revenge on Vidine and the rival fraternity that had a hand in derailing their semester. So they basically figure you ruin our lives, we're gonna ruin yours. And that's probably one of the best things about the movie is that it does kind of show that being bad is more fun than being good, but the movie also shows that if you're going to go down the path of laziness, rebellion, and not taking your academics seriously, like they're lovable losers, you're rooting for them, but at the same time, you also see there's a price to pay for being reckless, you know? And I think the movie's kind of saying, I think what the movie's trying to get across is that there's a fine line between being pretentious and reckless, and it's kind of showing the negatives that both sides can have. Like, for being reckless, yes, you're having fun, but you're also hurting other people in the process, and you're also making life harder for you in the future. And if you're pretentious and full of yourself and think you're number one, a lot of people are going to try and tear you down and mock you. And people just see you as this uptight phony. So I think what the movie really does very well is it kind of shows both sides of the extreme, and it kind of shows that even though your irresponsibility can get you into trouble, it's almost better to be in that category than to be someone who is a snob, you know? Because at least when you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, you have the idea of, oh, haha, I'm getting away with something, and you also have the idea of, okay, this is fun. Yes, there are consequences, but at least we're not jerks to other people. So there's kind of that idea, and a lot of the jokes. This is one of those movies where if it were released today, I don't think it would have done as well. I mean, like, considering how hypersensitive and stupid we are in society about handling risque jokes, this is probably one of the many comedies from the 70s and 80s that would not fly today. I mean, for example, there's one joke that I think would probably be. I think if this was done today, there's like two scenes that I think would have gotten everyone that involved in the movie death threats if it came out nowadays. The scene where the Tom Hulce character is about to have sex with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend just says, I'm only 13. Which, the thing is that the actress playing that character, she was actually in her 20s. So it's like, yeah. I mean, I it is so they make a pedophile joke essentially. Um, yeah, that would probably cause a lot of complaints. And there's also a scene where the characters go on this road trip and they go into this bar and they don't realize that they're going into an all black bar. And this takes place in 1962, so segregation was still very much a thing. And um yeah, there are a few jokes in that scene that are a bit bad, and I would go over the jokes, but I just got 22 subscribers, and I don't want to say something, even if it's just me repeating something from a movie. I don't really want to say something that could drop me from 22 to 0 in the next 12 hours. Um, and as far as that, the joke about Tom Holtz finding out that his love interest is a minor, um, that was probably one of the most controversial jokes in the movie, among many. Um, and I think as far as any real serious flaws in it, is that well, I'm trying to. This is probably one of those movies where you're laughing so hard and having so much fun that it's really hard to point out any flaws. And the movie got an R rating, so you're really not supposed to be seeing this unless you're 17 or at least 16. Well, I mean, it's rated R, but honestly, most 17-year-olds are probably not going to understand half the jokes in this. If you've been in college for a few years, a lot of these jokes are going to be really funny. So, I honestly think that it's a great movie. It's easily one of the best comedies of all time, and for many of the actors in this movie, this film was the beginning of a great career. So thank you all for watching, and be on the lookout next week when I do my next cover, a Southside Johnny song that, well, it's Southside Johnny, the dude's an underrated master. See ya.